As we are about to start our study today, Spiritism Inspiring Lives, we start with a message from the book Our Daily Bread by the Spirit Emmanuel, the message entitled Successes and Failures.
Successes and failures. I know how to live being preoccupied with their particular successes, anxiously awaiting the opportunity for recognition. They are precisely the ones who are least able to maintain distinguished positions when invited to the highest posts in the world, disastrously ruining the opportunities for elevation that life grants them. Almost always, those who have learned to endure poverty are the ones who know how to manage their material resources more effectively. For this reason, accumulated treasures in the hands of those who have not worked for it is often causes of crime, division, and perturbation. Honest, hard-working parents will form a mentality of personal effort and effective cooperation in their children, whereas selfish and uncaring parents will foster uselessness and laziness in theirs. Paul of Tarsus, in his message to the Philippian church, refers to the precious imperative on the path related to equilibrium, demonstrating the need of the disciple as to the value of poverty and wealth, of scarcity and abundance. Success and failure are two cups filled with diverse elements that may nonetheless be adapted to the same sublime purpose. Human ignorance, however, finds the liquor of exaggeration in the first, and the bile of desperation in the second. Therein lies a profound mistake, because the wise person will extract the divine content from happiness and pain, abundance or scarcity.
In that way, we start with our harmonization, bringing the focus of our attention to our inner self, tranquilizing our minds and hearts, opening us for this new study, as learners as we all are, feeling ourselves as immortal beings, ourselves and all of those in spirit who are with us. Grant this divine possibility for us to learn, and also the same way to cooperate ourselves on earth with those who are in the spiritual dimension, as brothers and sisters, cooperators of Christ, helping the humanity on earth and beyond to understand a bit more about the natural laws in the universe, helping us to reflect in our essence as spirits, beings created by God with love in order for us to learn to love ourselves, to love others, to love God, to love our existences. Beings created in order for us now to learn to develop our free will according to God's will, improving ourselves from within and taking advantage of the infinite possibilities that the universe is presented to every and each one of us on this whole earth. Freeing ourselves from our excuses, from our shortcomings, choosing the opportunity to liberate us from our own weaknesses and train our minds and hearts. That was the real life, the spiritual one. As members of the universal family that we all are, present here, may we elevate our hearts and minds towards the Creator and start our meeting expressing gratitude. Gratitude for Spiritism in our existences, which is the message from God that Jesus brings to all of us through the superior spirits, reminding us that happiness is not of this world, reminding us that we are not from this world, that we are not a physical body, but we are here through the mercy of God, granted the possibility for us to invest in our spiritual progress, in our spiritual evolution. Our gratitude towards the spiritual benefactors who are with us, inspiring us to overcome materialism, to detach us from what is not real, to remind ourselves, where will I be once I free myself from my physical body? In which condition? What will I choose to carry on doing? So that we can invest in the present to train ourselves as much as it possible. And as learners and as students of the divine science, as we all are, with our hearts full of joy, blessed by the enlightened beings and united under the same name of love that comes from the Creator of everything and everyone, we start our study today. So good. Welcome all of us here as we carry on our studies. Spiritism inspiring lives. Knowing that Spiritism inspiring lives because it brings the message that comes from the Creator of the universe, where we are all learning gradually. And today we are reflecting on the theme, living with joy. Is that important for us on earth right now? Are we living with joy and going through our trials and expiations as learners?
I would rephrase and say we're living in complaint.
We're living with complaint, yes. Complaining about everything, everyone, and they are not aware yet that is our inner shadow that we bring with us. Because we haven't been created by God in that way, and we haven't, through His mercy, been sent back to the school earth for us to carry on complaining, carry on intoxicating us, and carry on intoxicating the environment where we are on earth. We came back with this granted possibility for us to train, to develop the inner light, so that we be an instrument of light, of kindness, cooperating with the greatest power, with the superior beings who are all brothers and sisters, that we together, psychically speaking, are willing to cooperate for a greater cause than ourselves. Is that making sense? What do we understand about joy? Can that be seen, perceived in different ways? In which?
It could be the satisfaction of all my material needs will bring me joy and fulfillment in the materialistic field, and we also learn that in the more spiritual aspect, the more virtuous we become, the more joyful we will be.
Correct. So the joy can be seen for us who are learning on earth, is still as children, very immature, joy, taking advantage of what the material life only offers me, forgetting that the real joy, that is one level of development, of evolution. The real joy that Joana de Anjos is presented to us, and the Joana de Anjos is the greatest work of Jesus helping humanity, is referring to us to live with joy, fulfilling our reincarnation task on earth. So the joy comes in fulfilling our duties. Let's see what we learn as we go through now. She starts, Joana de Anjos, in the book Vitória sobre a Depressão, saying, greet the new day with joy of living, following by gratitude to God. What's she implying here? What's she meaning?
It's a hard task.
It's a hard task. That's just the beginning. Greet a new day means greet a new opportunity with joy when we start each new day on earth, followed by gratitude to God. Are we already in that stage, or are we willing to develop ourselves in that way? Or are we so intoxicated with what goes virus and our hearts are contaminated with that? We are here to learn to be more grateful, to learn to develop. Why would we do that? Why would we do that?
Because we have a little bit of knowledge, we know, the physical body, and we know that the life on earth is a great opportunity for us. We should be very happy.
We should be very grateful for every opportunity, but quite often we throw the opportunities in the bin, and what do we forget? Do the experiences come to our address by chance? No. Everything happens for a greater reason according to God's will. But are we open to listen to that and to testify what we came to do in terms of conquering new learnings? That is a challenge for us. Everything is, let's say, according to God's will, even if it does not make sense to us. We need to be willing to transcend our own limitations based on selfishness and materialism. Quite often, under those references which we went through for centuries and centuries, when the right experience in the right moment is presented to us for us to testify more spiritual knowledge, we run back and we hide ourselves beyond the old habits, isn't it? And in that way, we are not living with joy, we are not becoming more secure in God, we are not increasing our confidence in God, because we are not choosing to testify what we need to go through. Where do we learn? When do we learn more? When everything is okay and smoothly, or when the challenges are presented that we need to really testify new steps forward?
I think when we face challenges.
When we face challenges, don't give up. When we don't give excuses, we don't give up. We persist, we insist, and with this time, be loyal to ourselves according to the greatest proposal of evolution. And in that way, we really become more joyful, because the joy, what Joanna Jones means here, is not based on materialistic experiences. Yes, it goes beyond that. Then the next one, read it for us, please.
When the mind and heart are opened to joy, it is possible to discover it everywhere. Just looking at life, it's joyful.
What is she really meaning, isn't it? We can ask, oh my God, people are depressed, panicking. Do we open our mind and heart to joy? Or is it God opening to us?
You can carry on.
You can carry on. When the mind and heart are open to joy, then means that we as immortal beings who are learners of ourselves, or the educators of ourselves, we need to learn to choose to open our minds and hearts towards the natural laws in the universe. Not on my old vices that I bring from centuries and centuries that I'm blocked mentally and emotionally. I need to go beyond. When I fear a situation, I need to learn to be more creative, training mind, opening my mind according to the natural laws. I'm not the body, I'm not on earth. What I'm learning here, changing my belief system, actualizing, then I'm opening my mind. And when I open my mind in that way, and I face the situation with a new belief system, because I've upgraded myself, afterwards I will also open my heart. But often we are blocked on our hearts, full of fear, and we don't go beyond where we have been so far.
It made me think about the message from the book Cirurgia Moral, do not create problems where there are no problems, because we have a very negative mind or very negative patterns of thoughts. We don't have an open mind and heart to feel the positive, to even accept. We can enjoy a relative happiness, which we can learn.
Yes, and that negativity, that let's say internal disturbance, impedes us when everything outside is right, have been prepared for us to succeed. But if we don't open internally, we go back again and follow the old vices. So we need to be attentive, aware, because we always learn within Spiritism, outside everything is right, inside is not. So when we adjust and correct the inside, then everything is correct outside, even the greatest challenges. Because we came really to overcome them. We didn't come to earth to play and to be on holiday on earth. This is not the purpose of the reincarnation. Is that making sense? It is possible to discover it everywhere. Yeah, this is what you said. Just looking at life, it's joyful. how would you say, when the mind and heart are open to joy, it is possible to discover it everywhere. Have we discovered joy in which experiences?
I think in everything, but we need to exercise gratitude first. Because
when life presents me an experience that takes away my, let's say, reference of security, then I can experience joy because the universe is really willing and is investing in me to promote me with more joy, as long as I hold myself in the new way of looking at myself, life and experiences. Because the experiences on earth, they are all transitory. The only thing that we take with us is how we use our free will and train it more in a higher level, that we will stimulate the virtues, the inner potentials. And in that way, life is joyful. Someone may say, well, you are really crazy in this time, what we are going through on earth, be joyful. How would we decodify that? Worldwide, currently we are scared, panicking because of a virus. What is that telling about us? Have we developed joyful minds with the physical body, with the matter, with life only on earth? Even sometimes us who have already the knowledge of the Spiritism, we are much more followed and attached to what goes on the body level, on a temporary, instead of increasing our rational faith and believing more in God. Because sometimes we say that God is governing everything, but when the test is presented, we go back as any materialistic. We need to really review that. It's joyful because we have the opportunity, through mercy that God grants us, for us to be here exactly in this time with experiences, for us to overcome our own references of materialism that we bring, to rewrite our own history, how we perceive ourselves. No one loses anyone, no one dies. That is the message that comes from the greatest light of all. So we don't need to be scared. We know that we all will disincarnate. We will not die, either with a virus, with a cancer, whatever. Sooner or later we will go through. So we are here on earth to be instruments of light, of hope, of counsel, and be spreading that goodness, that we are connecting with the, starting to dissolve our own negativity within ourselves. Carry on, read the next one first, please.
When one acquires the consciousness of responsibility, immediately feels that it is free. But this freedom is always conquered by the action that becomes a blessing of love.
What are we learning here now regarding living with joy?
It sounds contradictory, responsibility with freedom, but the more responsible we are, the more freedom we will enjoy, because the more we will take ownership of our actions, our thoughts.
Why would it sound, or why does it sound, or could sound contradictory? Responsibility with freedom. Are we still referring on our childish way of looking at life and understanding freedom from me to do what I want to do, which is completely wrong? That is not freedom. That is irresponsibility. Responsibility is the greatest virtue of someone who is aware, who is attentive in life. And it's more as I carry on doing my own duties, according to what I came to do, what we came to do, no longer what we did, then we are freeing ourselves from within. As the greatest psychologist, the greatest educator, Jesus is teaching us through many messages in the books by Spirit Emmanuel. We are not free and ourselves in life from a bigger perspective, from a transpersonal perspective. We understand that responsibility is the internal autonomy to overcome my own limitations, my own lies, my own untruth, my own excuses that I always give. Each moment that is time for me to promote myself arrives, and this time never comes smoothly. I don't know if you know already that. Usually those moments that the universe invites us to give a step further, it is under turbulence. And then is where we choose with responsibility or with irresponsibility. And we free ourselves more if we choose responsibility. Because how can I trust myself and trust God if I don't expand the ability of trusting a process which I don't know yet what it will be? Because we always want just to do the next step and we are in control of. We need to learn to control our minds in a positive way and not reinforce such a control on an egoistic way of living, then we be asked to invest in our progress. Carry on living with joy. I didn't shift, okay? Only through perfect love can the human being consider himself truly free from all ties, even if this acquisition is achieved in some way through suffering. Well, here is Joanna Jantjes helping ourselves as babies to understand a bit more about life. Do we like to suffer?
We don't, I hope.
Do we need to suffer?
We do. Well, we don't need to, but we learn more when we do.
But in our stage of life, quite often we just wake up through suffering. Yes, while everything is okay according to my wishes, I carry on in that way. And then because I am under the law of evolution, sooner or later, life will come and help me to move forward. So if you go back through here, only through perfect love can the human being consider himself truly free from all ties. Question, what does Joanna Jantjes mean by perfect love? What is she meaning when she says consider himself truly free? And what does she mean free from all ties?
I was thinking about the ties, because when we don't love, which is most of the time, it's such a mess in our thoughts and our feelings. There's so much problem and so much negativity. But we, most of the time, choose not to love, even knowing that this is the
right way.
The right way. This is the answer to all the questions, but there's so much resistance.
Mm-hmm. Why do we resist to love or to develop the perfect love?
I think for me, I would say it's pride. Even I can see with my eyes, the person has changed, the situation has changed. There's nothing so much to complain about, but I'm still holding up.
Mm-hmm. So it's pride, it's also selfishness, it's also ignorance. Because here Joanna Jantjes is talking about perfect love. Which kind of love are we accustomed to?
Conditioned love.
The conditioned love. So the immature, the infantile love. Is that the love that Jesus came to teach us on earth? No. We think that love is if I follow this or whatever and I negate this or that. Love is not conditioned to anything, neither to anyone. Because love comes from God, not from any human being. Then again, the perfect love is when we mature more through our emotional intelligence, promoting it through our experiences. Free from all ties are our own shadows, or on illusions that we bring, or on negativity, or on values which are not corresponding to the natural laws that we sometimes get on and hold as it were the truth, and then we guide our experiences through it. So all the ties that we created throughout many, many existences which do not correspond to the real love. The ties of selfishness, of pride, of vanity, of control, of domination, whatever ties us up. Irresponsibility, rage, the use of the sexual force in a very, let's say, sensorial way. Yeah? Laziness, indifference. As long as I do what I want for mine, doesn't matter what happens with others. And we did not come back only to look after in that narrow-minded way. We came back to take care of ourselves, of our families, but also the universal family. Acquisition achieved in some way through suffering. We can always even take the sufferings as reminders for new learnings, because really the suffering, this stage of our evolution, is still a mechanism that awakes us, spiritually speaking. Then Joanna Jantjes carries on saying, suffering is bad, however, not an evil, because it offers the valuable resources for the acquisition of the permanent good. How could we translate this phrase? Suffering is bad, so she's really teaching us, well, it's not comfortable, it's not joyful as the title is. However, she put a comma, however, not an evil. That means that probably a lot of us think that suffering is evil. Why me? Why I'm going through this? Again, complaining. Why me? Because I asked to go through the experiences that the universe is presented to me. Why? To suffer? No, to learn. Suffering is an option. I can learn through joy. And then she says, because it offers the valuable resources for the acquisition of the permanent good. What is she referring here?
I think asking or reminding us that suffering is not something that we should avoid at all costs. Because sometimes we see, okay, this experience is happening to me, it's something evil because of an external cause, so this should be avoided, someone should take it away, and this should never ever happen again. But this is not the case, because suffering is a process, which when we go through, if we manage to go through well, we will have a permanent acquisition of a new skill, which might be permanently good.
Which kind of permanent skills could we develop in undergoing the suffering as a learning process?
It could be acceptance of
reality. From which perspective?
From the spiritual.
From the immortality level onwards. Because I'm not a physical body, I'm not from earth, I'm undergoing experiences here in order for me to develop the permanent good, acceptance of reality, acceptance of God's will, who is administrating my evolution, and He truly knows what is good for me, although I don't know, especially if I'm complaining, especially if I'm full of fear when I'm facing new experiences. Which are the permanent good are we acquire? Responsibility, which is a permanent virtue, which we are developing more and more. Lucidity, when we clear our minds and hearts, as Ruana Genesis started. Persistence, which is the other virtue. I will not abandon myself again through false excuses that I give each time when the universe presents me the possibility to move forward. I will embrace it. I will grow through it, through persistence, through repetition. What else?
In the example that Emmanuel gave in the message to be read, when we go through the experience of extreme poverty, we will learn to use the resources more wisely.
Correct. Correct. So which kind of permanent good skills can we develop if we undergo the experience of real poverty? Simplicity, I would say before that, humbleness. Without humbleness, we will carry on through the experience just complaining, and not learning anything. And why me? Because I'm tested to learn. So humbleness is fundamental for all kind of sorts of permanent skills to get. Simplicity, I will learn to live with less, because we know that life on earth can be very simple, and simple doesn't mean I just abandon myself. Simplicity means learning to cleanse my mind and heart with all the negativity and excesses that I may bring with me, and then I can see that I can actually live my life in a very simple way, meaning that I need very little for me to be joyful and living my life with joy on earth. What else?
Fraternity, we help to share.
We learn to be more fraternal. It's not only me and mine, because that is a very selfish way. So I choose already to become aware if I bring those selfish patterns, and I choose freely to acquire the permanent values, which is to learn to be more, to develop the universal fraternity, to be more cooperative, to be more willing to help, to have this disposition of inner freedom, as we saw previously when we learn to be responsible. What else?
Work.
To work. What do you mean by that?
The value of work, because work we will never stop throughout until we, well, even after we become pure spirit, we never stop working. Yeah. So it's better for us to start now.
To start now to working towards the good of everyone. Because as more higher or more we evolve in terms of the real love, as Juana Genesis presented previously, naturally we will not suffocate ourselves in the selfish way, but we will open ourselves in altruism. Those who are more evolved in their perfect love, they are the ones who are more giving, more helping, more serving, more willing, and that is the greatest, let's say, meaning of joy for them. Doing good for everyone, doesn't matter at whom. Anything else that we can consider in terms of permanent skills? Resignation, I would say, is a very, very important skill to be learned on the self level onwards, because quite often we face the situations, but again, with our toxicity, we find it difficult to resign ourselves towards the will of God. Obedience to God as well helps us to develop real joy, helps us to build the permanent confidence, the permanent inner security, the permanent willing to, let's say, mold ourselves in a new way, always for better, always according to the life that is immortal, not only what is good here, but what is good here, but I will also extend for me later on, once I free myself from the physical body. Because if I'm really attached to material things, once I free myself from the body, which can happen any moment, what will I do? I will be a problem for the benefactors. Instead of me be there already, quicker recovering myself and be promptly helping and carry on again, I will be one of those who need to be assisted. So when we already prepare ourselves here, take advantage of the possibilities, the time that God granted to us, and invest in promoting ourselves in that way, we live with joy here, we live with more joy when we also depart back home in the spiritual world. Read the next one, please.
This is why work of any nature must be done with the feeling of love, which is equivalent to a posture of freedom in action. Yes, it is very important to work, we know that, but also work with love and be involved in the task you're doing. Because otherwise you will put it on automatic pilot, you won't even remember what you have done. I do it sometimes when I leave the house and I start thinking, did they turn this thing off? Did they turn the lights off? And then what is the point if you can't even remember what you did?
If you don't remember what we did, it's because we are not engaged emotionally. But here is very important the point that you make when she says, this is why work of any nature must be done with the feelings of love. If we don't choose to do it with any nature, let's be clear here, with any nature according to God's laws, yes? So the feeling must be done with the feeling of love. If it's not done with the feeling of love, will I sustain myself throughout the process? No. I start and later on I give up, because the boredom, the negativity will emerge from my unconscious mind, the old systems. If I'm not willing to cleanse them, then I will not carry on promoting myself.
It will be like a burden I'm carrying, and it becomes so heavy that either way is just to...
It becomes heavy, because again, as we said previously, the minds and hearts blocked in negativity from previous existences or from this, that I abandoned myself each time that the universe wants me to promote, and I go back, sooner or later I need to renew that. So here I am on earth as incarnate being with a new possibility, but I bring the old tendencies. So I need to be attentive that my major goal is to learn to train myself in doing the work in a natural way, in engaging emotionally, explaining to myself why I'm choosing to do what I'm doing as an immortal being. And gradually, in choosing to do that, we are renewing, we are advancing our emotional intelligence.
And when we think that work is any occupation that has an activity, work of any nature, could be a marriage, it could be educating a child, it could be developing a maxim.
Precisely. Could be cooking the food for our children, could be a study, could be helping others. Whatever the work that you want to judge this minihini is the work that promotes the good for everyone. It's not what is selfish, only feeding my needs. Yes? Okay. Anything else? Equivalent to a posture-free medium. Now we go to the next one. Leandro, read it for us, please.
When love is not present in the sentiment, joy does not flourish, because it remains shaded by doubts and suspicions, because only
True love.
Only true love is perfection acquired in the face of the mechanisms of action that moves it.
Would you like to comment? We are reflecting about loving with joy. What is Joanna Genesis teaching us here? When love is not present in the sentiment, joy does not flourish. So she's giving a very clear recipient when we are bored, when we don't like to do things, when we are heavy, when we are complaining, isn't she? Well, what's coming to you?
Sometimes I still so not believing in things that I need to see clear in many different places. But no, I think if I start the other way around, when I have doubts, when I am suspicious with anything, and when I am bored, it's because I'm not dealing with love. So there's no joy in it.
Joy does not flourish because it remains shaded by doubts and suspicious. Because what do we understand by doubts and suspicious? Why can we be blocked mentally and emotionally that the love doesn't flow and we don't engage with love in what we do? Shaded by doubts and suspicions. Which kind of doubts? Which kind of suspicious?
Doubts for me come to as lack of faith and questioning if should I be doing what I'm doing? Because we see in the gospel they say when we lose faith in a second, we already suffer the consequences. We feel that anguish. So I think doubts when we start in this negative pattern of thoughts because it's lacking love, and then we decide, oh, she could be doing something else. I don't know anything.
Any other idea? Shaded by doubts and suspicions.
I like what she says about because only through love is perfection acquired, and in the face of the mechanism of action that moves it. So basically, what she's saying, from what I can understand, is that love is the thing that moves in everything else.
Should we say it's the power instead of the thing?
Yeah. It's the power behind the energy behind who acquiring the joy and keeping yourself in that joy state. Because without love, there won't be joy.
Yes, because what you said here when she says, through love is perfection acquired in the face of the mechanism of action that moves it. So what do we understand here? Is it possible to engage on that level of love without action? Is it possible to engage in the work that she is referring here, that we are training ourselves without action? What is the action so important here? So that we override to break through our own doubts and suspicions, our own negativity?
I think the action is what helps us to change.
Without the actions, we are not changing. We can know a lot intellectually, but without going on the action level, are we really developing the real mature love as she is referring? No. Why not?
And usually the action is completely different from the theory.
Precisely. Like talking about having a child. It's easy intellectually, yes? But when we go through having the baby, it's a different time. So we have an example here. Yes, so there is the need for us to embrace the action level, because the action level refers to our own attitude, which we develop the free will in a responsible way according to the new values that we are learning and expanding the love within, where we are freeing us. Good with that. Then we move on to the next one. Thais, would you like to read it for us, please?
People exist who claim they cannot love because they do not understand their neighbor, having difficulty in accepting it as it is. The question, however, is more subtle and must be formulated in the following terms. Because it does not love, it becomes difficult to understand, because of the selfish whims that hinder kindness towards others.
Okay. What do you understand? We can go through parts because it's quite big, this part. if you take the first part, of course, she's not talking about us, isn't she? Because she's saying people. People exist who claim they cannot love because they do not understand their neighbor, having difficulty in accepting it as it is. What comes to us in this first phrase here?
It's a conditional love we talked earlier, not the perfect love, like you said. We put conditions to love.
Okay. Okay, and why do we put conditions to love? Regarding
if you tick the boxes, then it's fine. We can be friends. If you don't.
Okay, if they tick mine egoistic boxes, then we can be friends. Otherwise, no. And is that the love that she's referring to? No, that would show in the beginning of the first slides when she was referring that we are blocked mentally and emotionally. So when we tick the box in order to relate with someone, we still are quite intoxicated with our negativity. And that is the infantile love, pretty much conditioned.
The way I see it is it's bringing back completely to me, because I'm very aware of that, is I don't know what love is, because the way I see love is very childish. It's very, like Sita said, there's some boxes that need to be ticked, then I love. So I think it's because I have learned, no, I think, I'm sure, it's because I haven't learned yet what is love. Mm-hmm. Love is essential. Mm-hmm. As Chico used to say, you don't have to forgive when you learn to love.
It's true.
So to me, it's what he said. He just explained to me the way I see. When I read what he said, I was like, oh my God! I until that time I thought I loved, but there, no, I don't love. I think I know what is love, I don't.
Yes, we can always measure ourselves, and only us can give the answer to us. Because Jesus' teaching is not only for us as Spiritists, it's for everyone. So what is my relationship with people with different religions? For instance, when we're talking about love. What is my ability to interact in a society in a broader perspective? Is it easy? Is it challenging? So that we can evaluate ourselves. But real love, the perfect love, which she referred in the previous slide, we don't know yet. We are learning gradually. All love is very, very conditioned. And why? There must be a reason for that.
I think it's because of our selfishness.
Because of our selfishness. It's mainly because of our selfishness and personal interest. Although we say we love so much, but as long as the person does what I want, otherwise I don't look at it. That is not love. That is conditioned in a selfish way. So as more as we become aware of that and promote ourselves now, knowing what we are doing, but as she said here, regarding our neighbors, within Spiritism, who are our neighbors? Who are the people who live close to our flats, close to our houses, in our block of flats where we live? They are children. What else? Of God, like us. So again, as we expand our understanding and then interact, as we saw in the previous slide, on the action level in a respectful way, we are already training a more mature level of love. Because the mature level of love, would we be right in saying, is down to developing self-love from within? And self-love is what? You never heard. We got stuck in this one. Self-love is what? Oh my God, that's difficult. Yeah, as children, that is the language of other people, yeah? So, what is self-love? Self-love is the consequence of. How do I train self-love? In our infantile way, and even on earth, we have some theories who say that self-love, do what pleases you. Is that self-love what Joanna Jones teaches us? Nothing to do. So self-love has to do in learning, accepting, and living the natural laws, which are God's laws that we bring within. So each time that we go a bit further in progressing that way, we are expanding our self-love and expanding the ability to embrace humanity. What are you laughing at?
Because when you say it sounds so easy, that's what she means. Anyway.
Yeah, that is the first part. Then we go through the second one. The question, however, is more subtle and must be formulated in the following terms. Because it does not love, it becomes difficult to understand because of the selfish winds that hinder kindness towards others. Again, here we are. When we are very conditioned, the boxes, as you mentioned, I just love if the person fits in, does this and that, because this is what I think is love, then we still are in a very selfish way, even if it is unconscious, and that makes it difficult to understand others. Because as more as we learn to develop the self-love, more we amplify our way of loving, more we amplify our comprehension of the differences. More, let's say, less conditioned or less conditions we put in terms of respecting others. Isn't it?
Even this is so complex because I was thinking, what does it mean to love then? Because you said, like we put conditions, and I was thinking about my son. Because I always say we love, and then we have this good feeling, but then he does something, I tell him many times not to do it, and then he does again, and then that comes this feeling of rage, and then for a moment, we just was like,
So what was the question that you said?
What does it mean?
What does it mean for us to train love in the stage where we are? Good.
Usually I associate love with a good feeling, but we can't feel.
Love is pure feeling. But the question is which kind of feelings or emotions in a primitive way that we still bring on our emotional intelligence, which you just said. We all still are dealing with anger, with whatever is there. So the real love, that is already reintegrating. So what are the parameters? You don't like parameters, yeah? But what are examples that we train real love? Is that the question, yeah? In our stage, I'm pretty sure that we'll be different when we are in a higher spheres. Because it's more, the spirit evolves, the law is the same, the love is the same, but we evolve and we comprehend more. In our stage, what do we understand love means for us?
I tend to think that when you hit that box, those boxes that we were talking about, and when it's like, oh, it's ticking this, but it's not ticking that, and then it starts annoying me. It's very hard because then you have to try to take your interest from that relationship, let's say, whatever relationship, friend, daughter, son, partners, whatever it is, but it's taking your self-interest. Why do I have that box there? Why do I need to have that to be able to love that person? And it's accepting that I don't really need, because that person is a child as I am, is learning as I am, makes mistakes as I do. But it's easy said than done. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to put yourself in that condition and accept it and let it go, and accept the person as
the person is. And learn to love as Jesus loved us, unconditionally. He didn't put condition. So what do we need to train to exercise that level of love? Because we say love, but how do we practice that on the action level?
Helping one another, being less selfish, having a selfless attitude towards the other person, the person in front of us. And I think having in mind what Ray just said, that I'm not better than anyone. Mm-hmm. The other person is just as imperfect as I am. Because I may think I'm better, but in the end I'm not better. We're just the same. We are all the same. We're learning. We are God's children, learning in this life, in this incarnation. And what we can only do is just to donate ourselves to others and try to be better and embrace the other as a brother or a sister, because we're all part of the same family. It's not easy, especially in a society where we live now, where money sometimes means a lot to some, and if it's not money, it's possessions, it's having a brand new car or earning lots of money. So it makes it hard, to put ourselves all fall in the same level, because maybe the other person doesn't feel the same way. But we have to, even though she or he may not feel the same way, we still have to embrace them and be open to love them the way that they are.
I think self-awareness is very important, and trained to be humble as well. Because once you realize that you have all the flaws, if no more, and you're humble enough to admit, and I think that's the way to start working on it. I don't know, that's how I see it.
The way that I see it, and maybe wrong, but it's the way that I see it, we talk about boxes. Boxes actually are all limitations based on pride and selfishness and personal interest, as we study in the Spirits book. No, not a question. So once I become aware of that, through study more, in a loving way, embracing us, and now what do we develop, which we haven't developed from the self level onwards, to practice love. From what you said, would I be right in saying, learning to respect everyone, because that needs to come within. Then that takes me out of the box. That takes me out of that only narrow way of looking. Respecting, is it also part for us to learn in training that level of love, learn to forgive each other? And that in order to respect, in order to forgive, don't we need to learn to be humble? Because without being humble, we will have difficulty to expanding our ability to love. To respect others, to forgive others, learn to be benevolent towards others, learn to be indulgent towards others, exactly what Jesus teaches us, what charity means in essence.
You know what I find difficult as well is finding the balance, because learning to love is one thing, but you still have to be assertive to your moral, to what is right. It doesn't mean because that person is doing something as you understand the position, is still learning as you are, and you forgive, but it doesn't mean you have, it's not accept, it's not the word, because who am I to accept, but it's to be assertive, not...
It's not to validate the wrongs. It's accept a person, but not reinforce the behavior. I think we are looking here on the previous one that we went through, let me find it, the permanent goods. The skills that we are developing, that is based on developing the virtues. When we are learning here to train the capacity to love more and more, we are invited to develop our virtues. Because the love is the summary of all virtues that we learn to practice gradually. Is that making sense?
Jesus gave you loads of examples as that, isn't it?
Yeah.
He would understand the person, but he would still say, go and don't do it.
Precisely. When we say accept others or accept and forgive, that will be part of learning to be charitable. And as more as we learn to practice charity, moral charity we are talking about, more we are expanding our ability to love. And that does not mean that we will be connivent, is that right? Connivent, that's the word that was before. Connivent with the mistakes and with the shortcomings, yes? Correct. Where are we here? I cannot, no, we are here. Here, yeah? Okay, so we move on then. The next one says, joy is not found in markets or pharmacies, but in the secluded heart that feels and loves. What is John James teaching us here? Under the title, Living with Joy.
You can buy or making.
Comes from within.
Why does it come within? Why is she mentioning here is not found in markets and in pharmacies? In markets, probably she is referring that sometimes when we are lacking self-love, we go out and buy and buy and buy. And when we are lacking self-love, otherwise we can also go in pharmacies. Then we take medicine, pills. For my depression, I cannot sleep. And then if I sleep, I cannot stay awake, and I carry on. Now she's saying that's not possible. Why?
Because joy is not found in the material; it's found on the immaterial, on the things that you cannot touch. You can only feel. And because love is a feeling. Love is something that is, you cultivate it, you grow inside you when you develop. And joy is exactly the same. Joy is another emotion that we cannot touch. You cannot buy joy. You can be the richest person in the world, and you will never be able to buy joy or love. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that we have to work to acquire within ourselves, to develop from. And then once we have that within yourself, you feel that inside you, then you spread. You spread onto others, you know, and divert into others, into the other children of God.
What else?
I see that joy as not the happiness that we find, as Andrew was saying, on the temporary happiness that we find in the physical world. That, okay, I have a new mobile, full of joy, I'm so happy, and then Leander comes and have a new, and then mine, oh, my joy is gone.
Then I feel jealous.
It was very
why you have something better than me?
And that was just a small example, but there's many out there. But I think that joy she's mentioning is the happiness that you acquire when you, go back to love. When you learn to love, you learn to forgive. You have the peaceful, you have the harmony within yourself. It doesn't matter what's going on, you have the faith, you know what is happening, you.
That reminds me, Thais, the early Christians,
Yes.
the trials that they went through, and they went through with joy.
When
Why?
they were thrown down, they were singing,
Why?
and the lions were eating.
Did they fear to go through the trials? No. Why did they express joy and teach us up to now? What is different from us to them?
Choices.
They already matured themselves in terms of cleansing the heads and minds, as when I started at the beginning of the slides, from our own negativity. How do we do that? When we recycle our hearts and minds according to God's laws. As more as we stimulate God's laws within, they become part of who we are. Then we don't fear anything. We just undergo the trials that we need to go through. It's what they did. With joy. They knew that they didn't have the understanding on an intellectual level about immortality. They felt that. They knew on the emotional level they would not die despite of whatever would happen to them on the physical body. That is certainty. Certainty. Is that okay? Cynthia, you think very...
No, just finding, so joy would be the consequence of our effort to try to acquire new good values.
Yes, to transcend our own limitations. And all the limitations are based on selfishness, pride, and personal interest or ignorance.
So our joy or happiness on earth is relative because we are not always trying to achieve those values. Sometimes we wander around. And
sometimes, I like this sometimes, but anyway, we carry on sometimes. Most of this is most of the time. This is why we are most of the time unhappy, because most of the time we are not doing what we came to do. Because our proposal on earth is to develop joy, to live with joy on earth, even when we go through suffering. Yes, it is what we saw in the previous slide, Cynthia, the responsibility with freedom. Remember when she said that? So joy is the consequence of exercising the free will which has been given by God in a free, spontaneous way, knowing what I do and guide myself towards. Self-conviction. Is that making sense? But it will not be joy, real joy, not a childish joy, based on a matter level almost. The real joy is a consequence of also the free will in a right way, in a correct way, more in accordance with what we came to do in terms of bringing inner fulfillment.
So, picking up on what you're saying, it came to my mind, and I want to ask you something. So, can we link anxiety to the lack of joy? Because nowadays it seems to me that a lot of people suffers from anxiety, which is, when I was growing up, it was something that perhaps, I'm not going to say that it didn't exist, because I'm sure it did, but we didn't get to hear as much as we do now. And nowadays it seems to me that anxiety is everywhere, and it's like a disease that everybody now...
A very chronic one.
Pardon?
A very chronic disease.
Yeah.
Anxiety.
Yeah. And which I don't think I suffer, hopefully not, but it's just sad to see that a lot of people, especially in this society that we live in, seem to
Yes.
suffer from it.
These days, a lot. And of course, in different degrees, because anxiety has to do with the individuality of each one of us. But there are different reasons. But again, when we reflect about that the major causes of our sufferings is pride and selfishness, if we wouldn't be so highly dominated by pride and selfishness, would we suffer from anxiety? If we would be more humble, if we would be more charitable, because the opposite of pride and selfishness is humbleness and charity. So we bring, as we started, you haven't been here, Joanna Genesis started at the beginning, we still bring our minds and hearts intoxicating with negativity from our previous experiences. And now we are going through the experience with that old material is on our unconscious mind. If we don't recycle that will be present because we came to overdo that. Our focus also, I think, Leandro, is we still are very on the materialistic level or focus of existence. And that leaves us very insecure, especially these days where we are not having the control anymore as we used to have in the old days. Things were more certain. Now they are very uncertain. And then I look forward, because those who suffer from anxiety, they're always in the future. They're not present in the present. So I look forward in the future with my negativity that I bring. So how do I end up in the present? Very anxious, very unhappy, and very insecure. My God, what can happen? So one links to another, but it has to do as us as immortal beings who haven't learned yet to connect with the real cause of life, which is God. Which is God. We are quite detached from the greatest resource which brings love for us. Leandro, would you like to read the next one?
In reality, living with joy does not prevent the presence of sufferings that are part of the process of evolution. On the contrary, it is precisely because they are understood as indispensable that they provide satisfaction and well-being.
How could we translate this?
Well, I think it's very sensible what she says there, because obviously we've been talking about joy, and we think, and then it might give the impression that joy is something that is constant in life, which is not. Joy is not constant because life has ups and downs, you know. So it's I think it's very good that she says that joy does not prevent suffering, but I'm sure it helps to overcome the difficulties and the suffering and the bruise that comes our way for our own benefit or our own benefit.
Why does life has ups and downs? Or why are we sometimes up and down in life?
Because it's true. I think because it's during the process of going towards perfection, enlightenment, in terms of learning more, and I think spiritual awareness is something that we grow with. With studying and pursuing the more knowledge, and especially I can talk about myself. And before Spiritism, my spiritual, although I had been raised within a religion of my spiritual mindset was very limited. Mm-hmm. And as obviously now I'm moving in studying Spiritism, I think it has grown much more. But then as I learn more and more it grows. So I think we don't know everything. Life sometimes comes with some difficulties, and that will teach us something. And we may or may not be prepared for that. So that's when it comes the ups and downs. And sometimes we are not prepared for let's say a cancer, for instance, that's might come on us. But then another difficulty might come in a different form, and then I might feel more prepared to go through it, more resilient, more not so weak. Determined. Mm-hmm. So I think that's when the ups and downs come from.
So would we right in saying the ups and downs are due to our emotional and psychological instability in the level where we are? Because are we always stable? No, we bring the past on our unconscious memories. And not only the past from this existence for us, the past from previous existences. Then we may be in one state of mind one day, the next one, and we also have the other element that we are constantly also interacting with other minds that also could have an impact on us, and partially also through our own ignorance of not understanding certain experiences, because we are learning. And all the new experiences that we came to overcome or to go through, because we all need to face new experiences, otherwise how can we evolve? So it's not only redo the old ones, but we also will face new ones. The new ones means we've never been in these situations. So how do we feel? Very awkward at the beginning, unsafe, oh my God. And as more as we go through, we learn, as you rightly said. There are much more experiences that we didn't go through than we did. If you look where we are, planet Earth, which is the beginning of the journey, so we have plenty of new experiences that we need to allow ourselves to go through.
I think it's very interesting the way it's written when she says, joy does not prevent the presence of suffering, and on the contrary, because the process of evolution is understood as indispensable, that provides satisfaction and well-being. So, to me, like the focus that we give to this process of evolution is nice.
And then
how we put the lenses.
The focus precise in the lenses, but what is behind the focus in the lenses?
The way that we see it.
That we are, how far we've reached in our evolution, psychological and emotional, are our own belief systems or our references. Because really in the stage where we are, we all go through the suffering, but how we engage with experience, if we are maturing ourselves, if we are developing love, which is the greatest process here, we go through with a new understanding. If it's difficult, if it's challenging, if it's suffering, that means there is something new for me to learn. It's not to punish myself. It's not to put myself down. It's only the alert that the universe gives me through my physiology. What is here that I can learn to do differently? And that understanding for itself, according to the natural laws in the universe, which are behind the law of evolution, I will have joy within, even if I go through challenging moments, because I know that I choose to go through, I choose to testify myself, I choose to go through the trial to promote myself.
And I think because of the lack of this understanding, that we go through all this anxiety, depression, there's so many people killing themselves. And
there's a lot of low self-esteem, there's a lot of rebelliousness sometimes. There are different aspects sometimes that the spirit is finding it difficult just to learn. Difficulty are part of our journey. But when we resist the learning, then it becomes, we ourselves put more pressure on us.
I find very interesting that she's finishing that sentence with that they provide satisfaction and well-being, when she's actually talking about suffering. And made me think of that very, very famous phrase in English that say, that which does not kill me makes me stronger. And it can also be related to the spiritual side of it as well, because when we overcome a challenge or something that is going on, or suffering of any sort, once we pass that phase and reflecting and looking back, most of the times I think the majority of the times, I can't think of any situation that I have been through that it was difficult and I did not learn anything, or didn't prepare me for what could come next. Mm-hmm. So I find it interesting that she says well-being. Well, this well-being comes a bit later.
Mm-hmm. It comes afterwards.
Yeah.
After we went through the trial. After we choose to relate with us in a new way on the mental and behavioral level, then it comes to compensation on the emotional level. Then she carries on saying, if you allow sadness to become a frequent companion of your emotions, melancholy will soon be installed in your feelings, taking away the beauty of existence. Is that true? How do we insist and be sad?
Some people just take joy in sadness.
people have joy in being sad. Why? Oh, me, I'm suffering so much. You don't know what happened to me. Then the other, no, listen what happened to me. Yes, it's true. So we are in the victim position. Because as learners, understanding that Earth is a school, and we have the greatest teacher always with us, which is Jesus, and we are blessed with the creator of the universe and with his love, there's no reason for that. So we need to, again, cleanse our mental and emotional dimension, unblock ourselves from that. And Karionchi said, if you have a habit of always finding the best, always, almost inevitably and imperceptible, in the less happy events, you will enjoy hope and permanent joy. Did we understand that? So we won't have much time to go into it, but it's very important that when we renew, when we recycle, when we change the lenses that we use, upgrade, update according to God's laws, which are always focused on love, we go back and we go through the experience with different eyes. Physical existence is an experience of evolution signed by remaking processes that generate suffering because it has the purpose of awakening us from the ignorance. So each time when we suffer, what we are being invited to do? Wake up! Learn. It's not an imposition. Huh?
It's interesting because I think everyone, I can talk by myself, they always say, why do I have to reincarnate? Why do I have to go I could learn this there in the spiritual world. Well,
so why do we explain that to you? Joana Jones may say, dear, there you can study, you can learn and evolve on an intellectual level, but you need even easier to come back to Earth in order to practice, to exercise on the action level to develop the love within. It's not only possible there. As we conclude, Cynthia, read the next one for us.
With the joy of living installed in the center, there will always be a way to face events, granting them validity and taking the best part of them.
Leandro, por favor, read the next one.
Adapt in this way to existential occurrences, rejoicing that you are in the body, enjoying the opportunity to correct mistakes, to make new attempts, to maintain healthy relationships.
Life with joy is in itself a hymn of praise to God. We can reflect with that. We won't have time to go there. But that is the invitation that Joana Jones, the spiritual benefactor, is giving to all of us, for especially us who are on Earth, going through the experiences that are in helping us to enlighten us and to move forward. And in that way, as always, we come to the end and we conclude our study today. Thais, would you like to do the final prayer? Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to be here, to learn more, to reflect on what Joana de Angelis brings to us, to reflect in our attitudes, to reflect in our need to grow, to develop more virtues, self-awareness, to be more humble. Thank you for the opportunity to know Spiritism that has helped me, and I'm sure it helped us to go to find joy, to go through this physical experience, focusing our lenses on what is important. Thank you, God, for Jesus, for his example of love, our model when we found ourselves troubled or confused what love is. Should we all look at our model Jesus? He has so many examples. Thank you for this spiritual center, for the opportunities of these reflections, these studies, sharing
through communicating with all of us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Much peace to all, and we hope to be together next week in this setting.